Hi, I'm Oliver and this is my video for my COMP3015 CW2. Here you can see my README on my GitHub, which explains some details about the marks that I'm claiming, which are surface animation, particle effects, explosion particle effects, shadow mapping, some gameplay systems, and I've got a custom bitmap UI text rendering. So in here I've got some videos, explanations on how to download and run the report, controls, and further details about each of my features, along with how the program fits together, all the different functions we're going to look through, and my references and AI declaration. I'll do a quick run through of the game. It's just building. As you can see here, with our custom text rendering here, we've got our surface animation of the waves, and you can see the shadow underneath the X-wing here. So if we start the game, you can see it flying through, and there is audio. So we pass the TIE fighters, affecting the engine, and there's semi-random TIE fighter small shows. It's in 3D randomly of gameplay. When you crash, you explode, and see the smoke running through, along with your score, and press F to reset. So if we go through the code here, so I've got all my header file here, which is where we initiate the skybox, the wave plane, the TIE fighter and the X-wing meshes, along with the rotation things. All of our textures are set here. Our gameplay state is here, and we've got gameplay details all the way down here. Here we have our particle values, explosion particle and smoke particle separate, our model movement, camera settings, and then more gameplay. Here are the shadow features, and the audio setup, and all of the custom functions. So, go through here, see all the different functions. Here we set up our FBO. We've got all of these here. And we have our set matrices, where we set all the values of those. In our basic uniform.frag, we have our object lighting, texture sampling, normal mapping, and shadow mapping. So here's our lighting, color, the shadow, and then put it all together. The basic uniform.vert is here. We are reusing our skybox from Coursework 1. We have our wave, frag, and vert files here. This also pulls in the shadow map, which is how you see the shadows onto the waves. We've got our particle files. So we've got particle fountain.frag, which is shared between both particle fountain, which is the engines and the smoke, which is the engines and the explosion, and then here are the engines. So we've got all the different offsets for each of the engines, and here is the code for the smoke. I'm also using a custom text rendering function. So we have text.vert, text.frag. This is using a bitmap. So I've imported an asset for that and had to upscale it so it would show nicely visually in the game. So we've got our text renderer CPP here. And we have our text renderer here. So back to the CPP. For the buffers, We have our particle helpers here. We've got init particle buffers with our birth time, VAO, and different types of buffers. We've got the same thing for our explosions and our smoke. After the particles, we have our gameplay functions. So for that, we have everything to do with we got X-wing positioning and tie positioning, along with our wave model matrix. So that's positioning our waves. We also have here tie obstacles. So this is where we have our primary TIE fighter and we have a secondary TIE fighter which is a certain distance behind the original one, so that it makes the gameplay feel a bit more random and a bit more chaotic. Here's our TIE collision. We're just checking our Z values, as since they're in a lane that is at the same height as each other, all we need to check is the Z value. And when you crash into the TIE fighter, it triggers game over, which sets our run state to game over. It stops the engines and it plays the explosions out. And it also prints the console game over. You are able to restart the game, which just resets all the variables that have been changed throughout the gameplay. And here is our audio setup. So we have X-wing engine loop, which you would have heard in the background. For the text rendering, we have our render UI. This is where we render everything to the screen. So on the start screen, we render X-wing runner, F to start, ALD arrows to move, and avoid the TIE fighters. While playing, it just shows the score and the current score, and then on game over, we show game over, we tally up the final score, and then we let them know that you can restart the game. So back at the start of this file, I have a brief contents overview, local structures to set up everything, including our the audio setup as well for the X-wing and just the other sounds. Here we initialize everything, including including the sound engine, the shadow map, our lighting, our models, our skybox, and then the particles. Here we set up our text renderer, so it pulls in all of our text files and our font files. We compile all of our linked shaders here, so all of these files are up here and in the shaders file here. And update, we update time, angle, movement, like that. And here's our renderer. So we render in the light. We do our first pass of the shadow map, then we render everything else, and then we do our particles at the end. And these particles are dependent on if the game is playing for the engines here, when the player crashes and blows up, and then afterwards when the smoke is active. Thank you for watching.